Here we have a Champion generator. This is a Honda clone engine, 200cc with 6.5 horsepower engine on it. The generator has been sitting as new for years, but now when attempting to start, it just doesn't start. Because of a long sitting, most likely the carburetor on this generator is being gummed up. If you was started once and then put away, then definitely the fuel is going to gum up inside the carburetor. On the other hand, even on a brand new engines like this one is, the carburetor can get clogged because of the sitting after the engine being fired for very first time at the end of the production line. In other words, right at the factory. So you buy a new generator and you keep it for years in a storage and it doesn't start. Most likely is because the carburetor has still some old fuel left into it. For that purpose, we're going to clean the carburetor from the outside. Rather than taking it all apart and clean it piece by piece, we're going to clean it where it is as is. Hi everyone, this is Frank with CleanCarburetor, and in this video we're going to show on how to use the GumBuster kit in order to clean the carburetor from the outside without removing the carburetor from the engine or without taking the carburetor all apart. The kit for cleaning the carburetors without taking them apart is a GumBuster kit. The kit consists of a can with a pressurized solvent on the inside that's going to dissolve the gum inside the carburetor, and the purge valve that gets installed on the bottom of the carburetor, allowing the solvent to be injected inside the carburetor. There are different fittings, different purge valve for different type engines: Honda, Kohler, Kawasaki, Briggs, old Tecumseh, Lonson used on the Toro, Arians, Snowtex, Generac, Champion like this one, Husqvarna, Ryobis, and so many other ones. For all the information regarding the different valves or different kit for small engines and other applications like motorcycles, jet skis, riding lawnmowers, chainsaws, string trimmers, and so on, everything practically runs on gas. Visit www.cleancarburetor.com. The kit comes with the instructions on how to install the purge valve, how to use the GumBuster, and how to use the before storage for gas. So in this video we're going to show on how we're going to clean the carburetor on this Champion generator without taking the carburetor apart. According to the instructions, the very first thing to do is to drain the old gas from the carburetor using the drain plug on the bottom of the carburetor ball. In case there is no drain plug, then drain all the fuel from the middle of the central screw on the bottom of the carburetor ball. All Honda and Honda clone engines have the drain plug on the side of the carburetor ball. Use 10mm wrench and remove the plug. Oh, there is no fuel left inside this carburetor. Looks like the fuel was drained at the factory after the engine ran for very first time at the end of the production line. So since it's a brand new, there is no fuel in it. But in the case there is fuel, you want to drain all the fuel out of the carburetor. In case the engine is equipped with the fuel shut-off valve, you want to turn that valve on in order to drain the fuel from inside of the tank all the way through the carburetor on the bottom of the carburetor. In this case, there is no fuel inside the tank, therefore it's nothing to drain. It's a good idea to drain all the fuel from the bottom of the carburetor, because that way all the fuel from the fuel line from the tank actually makes its way through the needle valve inside the carburetor, and you know that the needle valve actually works. Now, since there is no fuel in this particular carburetor, we're going to reinstall the drain plug, and we're going to remove the bottom screw on the carburetor. This is the central screw. This particular screw holds the bowl to the carburetor. Some of the carburetors bowl would come off as you remove this central screw, and some of them don't. As per instruction included with the kit. Now we're going to replace the central screw that we just removed with the purge valve. The purge valve is going to give us an access to the internals of the carburetors, including all the fuel jets and all the air jets. Do not over torque the purge valve to the carburetor. The fuel is not going to leak because there is an O-ring impregnated inside the purge valve itself, making a very tight seal between the bowl and the valve itself. Then we're going to remove the dust cap that keeps the valve clean while not in usage. Once installed on the carburetor, we're not going to remove the valve any longer. So the next step is to connect the GumBuster to the purge valve. Do not over torque the fitting onto the purge valve. Just snag lightly because it's got an O-ring on the inside and it's not going to leak. So with the GumBuster connected to the purge valve, we're going to inject the solvent from the GumBuster can inside the carburetor. 2 or 3 blasts of GumBuster inside the carburetors is usually sufficient, or before the carburetor starts dripping out. Now we're going to let the GumBuster solvent dissolve the gum inside the carburetor for about 20 to 30 minutes. 20 minutes later, we're going to inject one more shot inside the car. This is necessary in order to remove all the loose gum that had loosened up during those 20 minutes inside the carburetor in order to push all that gum outside the jets. This is a very important step and it should be followed. Now we're going to disconnect the GumBuster from the purge valve and we're going to attempt to run the engine on the GumBuster that is left inside the carburetor. So with the fuel valve in the off position and no choke, we're going to attempt to run the engine. Don't forget to check the engine oil before attempting to start the engine. So the engine started. That means it just burned some of the GumBuster left inside the carburetor and it stopped. Now we're going to add some fuel to the tank. If the tank is rusty, make sure you have a fuel filter between the tank and the carburetor. Now, with the fuel in the tank, turn the fuel valve on and apply the choke to the engine. And we're going to attempt to start it the usual way. Let's attempt to run it one more time. I need some choke. So beside the GumBuster kit, there is another kit that can be purchased separately or together with the GumBuster, and it's called Before Storage. This is for a preventive maintenance used on all gasoline engines in order to remove all the fuel left in the carburetor during the storage period. According to the instructions, the very first thing to do is to remove all the fuel from the carburetor before we inject before storage. I'm going to remove all the fuel from the bottom of the carburetor through the drain plug. With all the fuel drained through the drain plug, we're going to connect the before storage gas, purge gas, to the purge valve, the same way we did for the GumBuster. Once again, to not over torque the fitting onto the valve, we're going to blast the carburetor 3 times, 2 seconds each time, with the drain plug open. This is the amount of fuel that was left on the bottom of the carburetor bowl. The next step is to install the drain plug. Do not over torque the fitting. Now we're going to blast the carburetor 3 more times. We need to do this in order to remove every droplet of fuel from inside of the jets. So 3 times, 2 seconds each time. The last step is to install the dust cap. As we said in the beginning, the purge valve would stay with the carburetor for the rest of the life of the machine. If it doesn't start, you use the GumBuster. There are different kits out there at CleanCarburetor.com. This particular one is for snowblowers, for rototillers, for generators, pressure washers with the straight fitting. The 90-degree fitting one is for lawnmowers because there is not enough room under the carburetor and the deck. It's for the 2-stroke. The yellow hose attaches to the inlet hose to the carburetor. Kits for K-hin carburetors for motorcycles and mopeds. And fittings for the jet skis and older snowmobiles with the carburetor engines. This particular fitting can be used on fuel injected system as well. It can be installed on the inlet fuel line to the rail. Therefore, it can be used on any of the gasoline engines that are fuel injected. At the end, there is a set of purge valve for a different application, starting with the straight fitting for Honda clones, Kohler, Kawasaki, Yamaha's, Husqvarna's, straight fittings, 90-degree fittings used on lawnmowers, and some of the pressure washers. Then for the Briggs aluminum carburetors, for the Kamsi 5 to 7 and 8 to 11 horsepower. For Subaru engine and Kawasaki single-cylinder engines as well. 2-stroke engines and 4-stroke handheld like string trimmers, chainsaws, leaf blowers, and so on. Motorcycle mopeds with the K-hin carburetor, then a jet ski and snowmobiles with the diaphragm type carburetors, and the jet skis, ATV, UTV, snowmobiles with electronic fuel injection system. This is a great set for a repair shop or for a dealership that uses power equipment. The valve can be installed, clean the carburetor from the outside, then you remove it, put it back into the box as a set, keep it as a set, and anytime you have any troubles with any of your carbureted or EFI systems, you can use one of these valves in order to clean the carburetor or the entire injection system from the outside. Thank you for watching. This is Frank with Clean Carburetor. Subscribe to our Clean Carburetor channel on YouTube.